Cannery Row, Chapter 17, Part 1 of Chapter 17. In spite of his friendliness and his friends, Doc was a lonely and a set-apart man. Mac probably noticed it more than anybody. In a group, Doc always seemed alone. When the lights were on and the curtains drawn, and the Gregorian music played on the great phonograph, Mac used to look down on the laboratory from the palace flophouse. He knew Doc had a girl in there, but Mac used to get a dreadful feeling of loneliness out of it. Even in the dear close contact with a girl, Mac felt that Doc would be lonely. Doc was a night crawler. The lights were on in the lab all night, and yet he seemed to be up in the daytime too. And the great shrouds of music came out of the lab at any time of the day or night. Sometimes, when it was all dark and when it seemed that sleep had come at last, the diamond true child voices of the Sistine Choir would come from the windows of the laboratory. Doc had to keep up his collecting. He tried to get to the good tides along the coast. The sea rocks and the beaches were his stockpile. He knew where everything was when he wanted it. All the articles of his trade were filed away on the coast, sea cradles here, octopi here, tube worms in another place, sea pansies in another. He knew where to get them, but he could not go for them exactly when he wanted. For nature locked up the items and only released them occasionally. Doc had to know not only the tides, but when a particular low tide was good in a particular place. When such a low tide occurred, he packed his collecting tools in his car. He packed his jars, his bottles, his plates, and preservatives, and he went to the beach or reef or rock ledge where the animals he needed were stored. Now he had an order for small octopi, and the nearest place to get them was the boulder-strewn intertidal zone at La Jolla between Los Angeles and San Diego. It meant a 500-mile drive each way, and his arrival had to coincide with the retreating waters. The little octopi live among the boulders embedded in sand. Being timid and young, they prefer a bottom on which there are many caves and little crevices and lumps of mud where they may hide from predators and protect themselves from the waves. But on the same flat there are millions of sea cradles. While filling a definite order for octopi, Doc could replenish his stock of the cradles. Low tide was 5:17 a.m. on a Thursday. If Doc left Monterey on Wednesday morning, he could be there easily in time for the tide on Thursday. He would have taken someone with him for company, but quite by accident, everyone was away or was busy. Mac and the boys were up Carmel Valley collecting frogs. 3 young women he knew and would have enjoyed as companions had jobs and couldn't get away in the middle of the week. Henri the painter was occupied, for Hallman's department store had employed not a flagpole sitter, but a flagpole skater. On a tall mast on top of the store he had a little round platform, and there he was on skates going around and around. He had been there 3 days and 3 nights. He was out to set a new record for being on skates on a platform. The previous record was 127 hours, so he had some time to go. Henri had taken up his post across the street at Red Williams gas station. Henri was fascinated. He thought of doing a huge abstraction called Substratum Dream of a Flagpole Skater. Henri couldn't leave town while the skater was up there. He protested that there were philosophic implications in flagpole skating that no one had touched. Henri sat in a chair, leaned back against the lattice which concealed the door of the men's toilet at Red Williams's. He kept his eye on the eerie skating platform, and obviously he couldn't go with Doc to La Jolla. Doc had to go alone because the tide would not wait. Early in the morning he got his things together. Personal things went in a small satchel. Another satchel held instruments and syringes. Having packed, he combed and trimmed his brown beard, saw that his pencils were in his shirt pocket and his magnifying glass attached to his lapel. He packed the trays, bottles, glass plates, preservatives, rubber boots, and a blanket into the back of his car. He worked through the pearly time, washed 3 days' dishes, put the garbage into the surf. He closed the doors but did not lock them, and by 9 o'clock was on his way.